hoje eu estou muito feliz de introduzir Bertrand Petit e Delin, e informática e compositor também. So I'm very happy to introduce today my colleague and friend Bertrand, who's both a computer scientist and also a composer, musician. And maybe I will speak in English. I think everybody will understand. So, you know, I guess you heard about, you know, that AI helps to personalize, to make propaganda, commercials, and information, interesting and important information as well. For instance, for medical information to, in a way, closer to you. That is to adapt for you medical cures and medicine and protocols, etc. And what is interesting in very interesting in Bertrand's work is, in a way, it's that idea of personalizing music, the way music is performed, is organized, is orchestrated, and not just for a single user, but for several auditors, several persons who can hear the concert, live music, and the way they can interact in a way, the way the music is performed, and in a participatory way. So it's a very interesting work, very complementary to what has been presented so far. So eu acho que é muito interessante o jeito do Bertrand a mostrar uma abordagem para aproximar e fazer os auditores, que usualmente são passivos, participar na maneira que a música está tocada, está adaptada em tempo real aos desejos e às preferências dos auditores, e ao mesmo tempo ficar dentro o projeto abstrato do compositor. So, o Bertrand vai falar da maneira exatamente de combinar a visão geral, a visão arquitectural da música do compositor, e ao mesmo tempo essa adaptação, distanciação e ordenamento em tempo real, dependente dos desejos, das preferências, das injunções, das inputs, das entradas do público. Eu acho que é uma abordagem muito interessante. Eu quero agradecer ao Bertrand para participar nesse ciclo de seminário. Bertrand é, como eu já falei, ao mesmo tempo compositor e todo erudito, como uma formação na composição formal, e ao mesmo tempo uma cientista da programação. Então, sem adiar mais, without any more delay, I want to give the talk to Bertrand. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks a lot.
Okay. So, thank you, Jean-Pierre, and thank you to everyone. Okay, of course, I'm very pleased to be able to share with you some of the work I'm doing on music. And what I propose you is, oh yes, I don't know if it makes sense for you, but I am based in the south of France, Côte d'Azur, in Nice, with a place which is not so far from what I remember from Rio de Janeiro. We have also the sea and the mountain, like you. And okay, so you probably heard about the Côte d'Azur and about Nice. To start, Okay, to start that, I propose you, before going into the explanation of what I will present you, maybe to have something as you know, like when you begin a movie, you have a movie theme music. So I propose you to listen to two type of music produced by the system I'm using. Okay, it's different
Bertrand,
style.
sorry,
Okay.
sorry. I think there's
maybe...
Bertrand,
Yeah.
Bertrand, sorry. I think, and André, I think there's some echo. So maybe one of you has YouTube running. So maybe you should stop the YouTube transmission, otherwise it creates.
Professor, talvez seja o próprio Zoom. Então, quando um falar, acho que dá para fechar o microfone, sabe? Talvez seja o próprio Zoom dando eco.
Okay, I will. I cut my microphone and André as well, but Bertrand, bon, he needs a microphone.
You still have echo? It's okay, or you still have echo? It's okay now?
It's okay now.
It's okay? Jean-Pierre, it's okay? Not so good?
There's still the delay running, but anyway, I don't know where it comes from.
No, delay is probably quite normal. You have delay on YouTube. It's okay, Jean-Pierre, it's okay.
Maybe, but anyway, yeah. So sorry for interrupting. I tried to. So I think I will.
It's important that the sounds. Okay. The important thing is that you have a sound quite clear. After that, if you have a delay,
the sound is clear. So I will. Okay. So sorry. So you can continue.
Okay. So I will just use some seconds, some minutes for you for making you listen to some result from the work. And after that, we will enter into the explanation. So the first piece is a short piece of jazz rock in this case. So okay, I will. PowerPoint is not so easy to manage. So it was not written in the sense, or play in the sense of we are used to. Another example, which is more, let's say, with an orchestra. Okay, I will stop that just to to give you a flavor, or to feel a little bit the atmosphere we can create with the tools that we present you. So the first thing I want to do is to introduce the problematic for my topic. Jean-Pierre speak a lot about the interaction, music interaction. I will more focus today maybe on the aspect of the generative music aspect, which is supplied by this system. So we have a little bit like both hats with the system we present you. One is the interaction with the audience, and one is, let's say, more oriented to generative music. So I propose you to address the few following topic. What is artificial intelligence in my case? And okay, why applying artificial intelligence for music generating. And okay, I would detail you have just the big picture here. So maybe a little bit more about who am I. Well, Jean-Pierre already told you the main points. Concerning, I have two names, in fact. I have Petit and Edlin. Let's say generally I use the name Petit for the scientific works, and I use Edlin as the name for the music. Edlin is the name of my grandfather, so it's not so far. It's not a completely French name in my case. So concerning music, I am essentially training in academic music, let's say. So what I'm used to produce as a musician is more what we call, I don't know if in Brazil you use this kind of expression, we use neotonal. It means it's not necessarily experimental music, and it could be also music played by, organs, by string quartets, or by chorus and so on and so on. But I have also had concerning more experimental aspects of music. You will see after. As I am a member of the Society of the Composer in France, which is, I suppose you have something the same kind in Brazil. I am also a member of a Japanese association, which is more focused on, let's say, experimental music in this case, and also a creation center in Esse, which is also more focused on experimental music. Concerning science, so I have a PhD from INRIA, which is the Institute for Computer Science, the main institute in France for computer science. And actually, I am at the moment I am associate researcher to the University of Nice. What is AI for me? Because AI is the big word, as Jean-Pierre already explained very brilliantly in the previous presentation. Of course, the main trends is concerning the neural networks, of course. Nevertheless, I think that for me, the expression is broader than that. It's not only a neural network. I think it could be a lot of other systems, which could, in some parts, help or partially replace the human intelligence. Be very, let's say, prudent and modest concerning that. It's not necessarily something which is able to do music alone from scratch. There is a lot of different levels possible. Concerning, of course, the different systems, so we have the neural network. So I think you heard, or probably some of you know that IRCAM in France is a very big research and development institute in music, and they develop a lot of very interesting tools and very powerful tools, which are not basically based using neural network, but different kind of system. And here I cite two very excellent systems concerning more automatic improvisation, which are absolutely amazing. That's work very well. You have a lot of demo on the web, and they are not using neural network. Let's say maybe in some part of the system, but it's not a full neural network system. Another kind of system which is interesting is the use of virtual artificial intelligence, not for creating music, but for interpreting music, for example, to introduce expressivity into the interpretation. So they can, of course, use a system based on neural network, but another kind of system also on a rule-based system, for example. Among the tools concerning let's say, I don't know the way artificial intelligence used to create music or to think about music. Of course, you have open music, which is also a tool developed by IRCAM. I think it's quite now an old tool. I think it started maybe 20 or 30 years ago. It's still used by composers in France. I know some of them will use this system. It absolutely don't use anything regarding neural network. It's completely based on other ideas. So just to put the focus to say that artificial intelligence is not necessarily only neural network. So I probably you already know that, but I would like to focus a little bit on this point before going further. Alors, concerning, I think I have to explain my position concerning neural network. First of all, I am very impressed by the result and the progress of this system as a musician. For music, let's say we are still at the beginning, I think, of this kind of system. But if you have a look, as Jean-Pierre already explained, concerning images or languages, so it's quite amazing. It's very impressive. So I think in the short term, I don't know, of course, how long it will take. The neural network will certainly be able to produce music, quality music, let's say. Something kind of music which will be difficult to let's say to see that this is a computer who built it. It's not built by a human. So I think we are not so far from that. Not yet, but I think it will come. But the question is more for me is not completely at this level, because it's not because the system can produce something which looks or sounds like music that this is music, because music is much more than only the fact of producing a sound. So and I ask me for this presentation, what makes music come alive? What is okay? And for that, I try to think to a question raised by Jean-Pierre, which is well, good music, bad music, which is let's say a classical topic concerning the generative music. And I think that before that, there is something to take into account. This is that music is first a marker of social status. If you are from, let's say, educated in a certain context, you don't have the same approach of what is or is not a good music. So for me, it's not a question of quality, it's a question of social environment and social marking also. So it's completely subjective and polemical discussion. So I am not, let's say, I don't want to enter into this discussion because I think there is no solution. I was looking for, I think to that because the day before yesterday, we have, we have a TV channel in Europe, which is called Arte, and Arte has a long sequence of programs concerning the country music of the US state. And okay, I'm not completely a fan of country music, but I'm interested by popular music, and I had to connect, and when I see that, I see that 10,000 people are assisting to country concerts, and they are able to say to you, this one is a good singer, this one is not a good singer. I think for them, the country music is the best music of the world. And so I'm not able to judge if it's not true or if it's true. For me, it's not necessarily, but for them, it is the case. So I think what makes music, in fact, is the fact that there is an audience, basically, and an audience which can find an expression of his social status inside with this music. So starting from that, I just have a big picture here of what, let's say, what a kind of cycle of music creation, let's say. So the first person in the process, let's say, is the composer. So the composer, if I take this picture of regarding from, let's say, academic musical, the status of composer is something quite clear. You have a definition of the composer. You have something which is very important, is the producer. If you don't have money, the music doesn't exist. And you are the performer inside this, in this loop. I think in case of academic music, but most of the popular music follow this scheme. You have someone who has an idea and it goes to producer, and the producer, okay, finance that, and put it on a media, typically a radio before us, and now internet, and then you have the audience, and the audience generate a revenue. Okay, simple picture, and what I was thinking is what could be the impact of the generative music using artificial intelligence on this model. And for me, it's not when we want to speak and to tell, okay, this is the end of the musician because of the generative music. I don't think so for the moment, because when you like music, I know that in Brazil you like bossa music, and if you like bossa nova, it's also because you like Carlos Jobim. It's not only because you only like the sound of the bossa nova. It's somebody, someone who has an history, who is representative of your culture. So the social identity is very important, I think, in music. So, and for the moment, I don't think that the artificial intelligence system today are able to bring this level of identity of the social group. Okay, can make the sound. Maybe it can make good bossa nova, but it will not be a bossa nova from Jobim. It will be a bossa nova from we don't know who. So you cannot feel this is your culture if you cannot associate someone behind it. So for me anyway, in the process and regarding the artificial intelligence, the people more impacted, I think, in the short term by the generative is mainly the composer, because as we see with images, you can replace the creation of images by prompts. Very soon you could replace the generation of music by prompts. I think it will come. So in this case, the composer is impacted. Okay, it's a problem for the composer, but I'm not sure that this is a complete problem for the whole process. The producer, okay, will still be a producer. You have to put money somewhere. And the first one, maybe one of the most important point for the money is for the performer, because the performer is key today. Is maybe the most important part of the game. So we use in academic, let's say traditional classical music, to put the emphasis on the composer, but it's quite recent. It's start with the classical age and the romantic age. But before that, the composer did not exist. The guy who makes the music is the performer. Okay, and I think it's still true for most of the popular music, because in popular music, often you have the performer and the composer who are the same guy. But I think it's also true, okay, for classical, let's say classical music. So in this process, I think the performer will not necessarily be impacted, because you can put avatar on YouTube and so on, but the people like to go to the show. I suppose in Brazil it's like everywhere. When we have here a group coming, a rock group, and you have thousands of people who want to assist to that. They want to see the show, then they want to see the guys. They don't want to see avatar or to see it on YouTube. So the performer, I think, we remain very important, and will be let's say the main point of the system, and remain the main point. Well, the media will evolve, of course, with internet and so on. The fact that the performer can keep his role for the audience is clear. For the composer, I think it could be if you replace the composer by a prompt, so the composer may disappear in the process, or not necessarily completely disappear, but lose his main role, the role he has since the classical era and romantic era. So this is an important impact, and this is you will see why I'm not using neural network after that, because I am a composer, and so I don't want to be replaced by a prompt. Anyway, something which is clear in this process is that for decorative music, I don't know if the term is very correct, but for kilometer music, for the music which is not the main topic in the performance. If you have no performer, okay, this is the artificial network, of course, artificial intelligence, of course, are a good opportunity for the producer to reduce the cost, of course. This makes sense. And in this case, of course, it will make less money, not necessarily for the performer, because necessarily it was not necessarily performed physically by people, but of course it will be less money for the composer. This is the kind of problem we have today with the scenarists in Hollywood. They are striking because they don't want to lose their job, because they are already in this process, or where the composer, in this case the writers, the scenarists, may lose part of their job. Okay, alors, I will present you my choices as a composer point of view. This is a personal, of course, position. That's not, I'm not explaining the way to do it and to say to the guys, you have to do like this. No, this is my way. Maybe it's a good one, maybe it's not a good one. It's up to you to decide. Alors, basically, I am not, let's say, I'm not fighting against the neural network. It's very important. I'm very interested in that. Technically, it's a very amazing word. It's quite very well documented. You have a lot of things to learn. It's marvelous. I personally enjoy it. But as a composer, what I like to do as I'm a musician, what I like is to think and write the music. I don't want someone else or a system do it for me, because this is what I like to do. It's not a question of quality of what you want. It's a question of pleasure and of let's say, artistic pleasure. On the other hand, this does not mean that I don't want to use computers, of course, because there is complex things that a computer can do, and then I cannot do, or which are very difficult for me to do, which could take a very long time. Okay, and okay, as I already explained to you, as AI is not the only way. Okay, I will speak about AI, but in another way, where I keep my role of composer in the sense of writing and thinking the music, but using systems to help me to do complex things that I cannot do easily. Alors, my choice is to focus. Music is, of course, I don't have to explain it to you. It's a huge word. You can take it different level and do different things. Okay. Personally, I'm interested in the structure of the music. It means if you try to build, for example, even for an artist who is designing or who is painting, the first thing he thinks in his head is the construction, the organization of the work. And this is for me a very interesting topic, which is, I think, very present in the history of music, or maybe more in the, let's say, what we could call academic music, where the history of the musical structure is quite long compared to other things, and which also has a long evolution in the contemporary music. If you think about Stockhausen or people after Stockhausen, the young people today, Jean-Luc Hervé, for example, the people who are thinking to the structure, and they are building a project around a structural view of what they want to do. So musical structure. So you have some on this slide. You see a different design here. In fact, these are real scores, real scores from contemporary music, or contemporary, or from the last century. Not so that's contemporary, in fact. The basic rules for me, the basic rules. Although you have picture of the people I like. You have Arnold Schoenberg, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, and Béla Bartók. And behind that, you have Olivier Messiaen, which is a French star of the music of the 20th century, of course. Alors, what I don't want in this case, I don't want to be in something which is proposed by people today, which is you prompt or you design something, you ask to an artificial intelligence to propose you things, and you choose inside it what you want to do. So I don't like so much the system, because I think the fact of producing the basic idea is something which is very deep in the mind of the composer. So I don't want a computer to propose me things and to tell me, yeah, you should try that. No, I don't want. I want to be the master of the origin of the music, of the personal choice, of course. Even it is likely to work well. I don't know if you already played with a system to like ChatGPT and so on, so it can produce things very, very good quality. But I don't want this level. So what I want to do is to be more in the context of the what did the people, the architects, for example, using complex computer-aided drafting systems in order to build complex systems with a lot of constraint on the building and so on, and to have very strange forms for the building, because they can use system to compute the good organization of the forces implied in the buildings in order to make it stay stable during its life. There's something also which is very important, and sometimes we forget it, is that McLuhan, the human scientist, put it was at origin due to the television, but he said that the medium is the message. So it means if you think to a tool, if you use a tool, this tool will necessarily focus or organize your music some way, or at least give a direction to what you are doing. So it's important because I don't believe to the neutrality of the tools, of the musical tools. I think and maybe it will came from the fact that I was interested for a long time by the digital audio workstation, but not only the classical one like Reaper, but more solution like Ableton Live or Bitwig Studio. This kind of system will propose you behind the system a way of composing, even if it's not clearly the topic of the tool. So for me, a tool is necessarily orienting the music. So the tool I'm designing I am conscious of that, are orienting the music I'm producing due to their technical background. So, a few words about musical structure. Of course, I suppose most of you are familiar with the basic element of musical structure in the classical music. Even if not exactly used in the same way for most of the contemporary composer, the basic idea remains more or less close in any case. So here you have an example taken from the first sonata for piano from Ludwig van Beethoven. I don't know if you're a pianist from them, but you recognize the score. So most of I will start with what you are speaking about structure in a tonal context, for example, tonal or modal context. On tonal music, I suppose you know that. Modal maybe is more, let's say, people like Olivier Messiaen who developed that. It was mainly, let's say, the topic of the composer of the beginning of the 20th century, but it's still alive. It's still alive. Alors, most of the tonal composers use a combination of different elements which are in a kind of hierarchy. You start from a cell. You are here the vocabulary could change a little bit. So here it's a motif. Okay, motif. So cell. Then you have the pattern. Here you have subphrase, for example, and you have the theme. The theme is the complete, in this case, the complete combination of these elements. So, okay, the structure is based on a hierarchy, let's say. Alors, the more you are going in the high level of the hierarchy, the more complex or more, let's say, high view you can have the system. So the form is the second level of hierarchy in this case. So I just mentioned some of them. the ABA form, which is a very simple one, the rondo, the sonata, which is more complex, the lead, which is not so complex, variation, which is massively used by the composer of the beginning of the atonal music of the 20th century, and still used, of course. Alors, fuga, passagia, okay, these are more classical music. And of course, the open form. Open forms are the interesting thing, but it exists in the music after the Second World War. People are used to speak of open form. So as I explained, even if you don't use exactly what I just presented here, the composer in let's say academic music are trained to think in this way. I think this is probably more stronger for the people coming from the classical academic music or contemporary music than for the popular music, because the popular music usually use form close to what you can find in classical music, but in a simple way, more simple way. In jazz, you can, most of the forms in jazz are related to something which is called passagia or variation. Mainly, you don't have a complex form like sonata or this kind of stuff. This is true also for bossa. Bossa is more like jazz. It's quite simple forms. Doesn't mean simple music, but simple form, let's say. Alors, now the question: when you decide to start or to use or to think in terms of structure, the question is how to implement that. And of course, there is a huge amount of possibility, and I try to find one which is not too difficult to implement. In fact, I'm a bit a lazy guy, you know. And what I noticed, something is very interesting in since the end of the last century, the development of the clip-based digital audio workstation. I think one of the first one is probably FL Studio and Ableton Live. Ableton Live, I think this is the major, the leader in this field. And okay, even if you don't use, in my case, I don't use loop in the sense of electro music, but the idea of clip is interesting because clip is not so far, let's say, from something that we can call a cell, a pattern, you know, basic element. So if you start from that, you have the basic level and the level 0 of the system, and you can elaborate on that in order to build complex architecture. So for me, I don't use, I use often clip or pattern or cells. They are synonyms for me, and don't worry. Sometimes you will have a clip, sometimes you will have patterns. The same thing. Okay. I have long discussion with composer about the definition of what could be the basic element. So he told me, oh, you could use the term basic element, but basic element is a bit long, you know. So clip is maybe too much linked to the to Ableton or Bitwig Studio. So okay. Alors, it's not I don't pretend to be to have discovered something very very complex. I think it's not a totally extraordinary idea as I about it, because these systems, I think it's quite natural, tend to develop something which allow to define clip chaining. It means the way of chaining the clip and introduce some way randomness, I think, in the process. So something already started with this system concerning something which could be close to what I call a structure. Alors, the problem is that these systems are not dedicated to that. So they add some elements close which allow to do something, but they are not designed for that. So in Ableton Live, for example, or even in Weebix Studio, you have this kind of windows you have here, where you can define which will be the next clip, when will it start, what you want to do. You take the first in the list or the last one, or you take one randomly. So you can do these kind of things, which are, for me, already a starting point for thinking about a structure. But they are quite simple, and if you want to do something more complex than that, okay, and it's almost impossible, in fact. For example, some of the limits I personally met when I wanted to start to think about that is that you cannot define, for example, in Ableton Live, a logical operation. It means if you have a clip which is played X time, then you want to randomly take another one somewhere. Okay, so you cannot do that. You cannot do that. In some parts you can do it, but it's not designed for that. It's quite complex. In the case of Ableton, you have, for example, another limit. You cannot choose. You have the notion of track, you know. We will see it after in the picture. You have this track. You cannot take a pattern from a track and automatically launch another one by a link, let's say a logical link. It's not designed for that. You cannot do that. Between at this level is a little bit better. And probably as the most problematic aspect is that you don't have a global view of this structure and the way you want to manipulate it. If you want to change something, you have to change it clip by clip, enter into the definition of the launch, modify it, and okay, do that for everyone. And if you want to do big changes, so it would take you a lot of time. It's almost impossible. So seeing that, my goal was to, of course, to overcome this limitation, to find a way to overcome this limitation, and to define an efficient system, a notation system, to manipulate this complex clip-based, pattern-based musical structure. And of course, to create or to define a software which can manipulate this notation. So we will see after that, because Jean-Pierre, he spoke a lot about interaction, and for the moment we don't speak about that, but don't worry, it will come. So I will just make a presentation, a general presentation of the system. Our system has a name. We give it a name some years ago because it's easy to manipulate, I think. And the name is skinny. Our skinny is a reference to is a Greek word, in fact. It's not French, not Brazilian. I don't know. Maybe it has a sense in Brazilian. It's not Brazilian. It's not English. It's skinny means scene in English. The scene where you have the performance. So I find it sound well, so I chose this one. So you have some some words behind, some keywords I will present you in the following clips slides. Alors, what could be a clip? So I have some sound example of what could be a clip. So I propose you to listen to some. Okay, very short. Okay, this could be a clip from let's say strings. I don't know if it starts alone. The sound. No. Okay. Very short. You have some sound of contrabass, for example. Why not? It could be electro, right? It could be electronic music. In this one, I don't remember what it is. Okay. A short saxophone phrase. It's not a phrase, some patterns, very short, some seconds. So these are examples of patterns. They can be represented as you see. They can be represented as you see as MIDI data. It could be notation, classical notation, or even sounds. Because this is true because I'm using Do, and in a Do well, except this one, you can not use it directly, but this one you can use them directly in the system. Next slide. Okay, the magic of PowerPoint. Once you have defined the patterns, so here it's a representation of a short, an extract from a Bitwig Studio, I think, where you have the clip. So you have the clip, and they are assigned to two tracks. In this case, they are instruments. Okay. So it means you can organize, you design as a composer basic elements, you put them in the software like a table. It's more a little bit like an Excel file in terms of view. And I use in this case the way of defining these patterns. Then once you have defined it, written them and made them possible to play, you will group them. It means you will define groups of patterns, like that theory of ensembles. You put them in some groups. Our tanks is exactly like a group. It's just a behavior which is a little bit different. We will see, because once you have defined this group, what we will plan to do is to use them to produce the music, and you can do it in several ways. The most simple way is to play them in sequence, like in a classical sequencer, but you could also use random process to manipulate them. It means ask the system, okay, I define a group, choose someone inside the group and play it. Okay. Tanks are exactly the same. The only difference is that when the system play a clip, I want the system to put it away. Don't play it again. So this notion of group and tanks is not a complete innovation. It was something which was done by people like Penderecki, Polish composer. So I take that also from a composer of the 20th century. So it's a representation of a group. It's just okay. So you define, but you can define a group of different elements of different tracks and so on. So it's quite open. You can do what you want in the group definition. Alors, starting from that, there are few basic elements which will be used to define the structure of the piece of music. The first one is the one I just presented you concerning the group and the tanks. It means that the music is produced by playing pattern. Alors, it could be singing in a sequence, classically. It could be randomly from a group or a tank. First element. Second element, the progress of the piece has to be controlled by events. Events, it's quite in a wide sense of events. It could be events generated by the music. It means, for example, if you have some patterns which are played, I want to take it into account in the evolution of the structure. Okay, why not? But it could be also from external sensors. So distance sensors, sound sensors, humidity, all what you want. And it could be, of course, as Jean-Pierre introduced it could be the audience. The audience, of course, could be more complex than only a combination of things. And I will not develop it today because it will be a little bit long, but the idea is that the audience could have an interface to the system and be able to define choice and define rules to control the system. So we will see that the system is designed for that due to the architecture of the system, which is based on web technology, basically. So it's quite not necessarily easy, but it's completely doable to develop audience interfaces, and we did it, and we managed it, and we tested it several times. Alors, something which is important, the structure concern groups, concern events, but also you can introduce random processes, of course, but you can also structure the way you want to manage the randomness of the system. So you can manage priority. tell, for example, I want that these patterns are more important than the other one. You can manage the non-overlapping. It means you don't want to have two patterns to be played together. This is due to the fact at the beginning that the system was thought also to be played by a real musician, because he can produce real music, and you can also be interfaced with the real score displayed on tablet, for example, and ask the guy to play the music in real time. So in this case, you cannot ask a tour guide to play two scores in the same time. So you just play one. So this is why I take specific attention to the fact that I have to manage the fact that we don't want to have overlapping of certain patterns. Of course, non-repetition of patterns has to be managed, and the ordering. I mean, sometimes you don't, if you have this process, the random process which asks for a list of pattern, which is completely standard in the system, but you don't want to have this list played in a random order. You want to manage it to build a specific order in the list of the pattern asked by the random process. So, the difficulty at the beginning was how to express how to manage, how to express the basic concept I just presented you. So you have the events, you have the patterns, you have the tanks, you have you have the list of patterns. And okay, at the beginning I thought about a way of presenting it graphically. So for example, here you have a specific piece of music. I think we can listen to it after. And you have different group of patterns. For example, here you have the viola or alto in French. Maybe it's like you, I don't know, in Brazil, maybe you use the term alto for that. So this is the violin. Violin, I don't know, because violin in Spain, I think in Spain is the guitar for us. So is the strings basically. So you have cello, you have the contrabass. Okay. And for this instrument, you have a series of patterns. For example, in this case, I have 5 patterns. So what I decided here is to let the system to say to the system, okay, in this case, it's a mix between events and time. What you have here. So I asked the system to present to make available to a random process the pattern, and you can leave the system play what you want during a certain time. So the time is measured here by the number of events. If you have, I think, one pattern which is played, you can combine it with something else, which is time, and say, in this case, when this happens, you can go further. So you have it's a mix between the representation you have of standard classical score. It means if you look to a Debussy score, you will see that you have the trumpet somewhere, the violin, and then the contrabass, and so it's very close to that. Very close to that. So what you can do is to complexify the structure by thinking in some part of what I call an orchestration, because it's close to what we are used to describe when we are speaking of orchestral music. So you have here for example, here you have the strings, and the strings, and here you have the wood. Yes. So you define a rule for cello and woods, clarinet, flutes, and so on. Okay, completely specific part of the world. And then you add something else. And you add, okay, you can think like that with blocks. And I want to be able to superpose these blocks easily, very easily. So this is what we call parallelism. It means you can parallelize blocks. So I think, I don't remember exactly, but I think there is an example of music for that piece. Yes. So you have the first part. I think this is the strings. Yes, could be this strings. Okay. The second group of strings, which is entering. Okay, so now you have this part which is starting, which is horns. Yes. Okay, you have the horns. So during a certain time, or if they play, they play. If they don't play, they don't play. And it's a random process in this case. Now the strings continue, and you should have very soon. No, it's a very cool. It's a very short one. So okay, so it's a view of the score. It's a first representation of the music. Back. Okay, so now the interesting thing is just it's a parenthesis in the process. You can extract what is produced by the system to produce real scores for real musicians. So this is why it could be seen as a generative system in this sense. So it can produce music. Okay, so in this case, I will not enter to detail. Alors, okay. Alors the problem once you know what you want to do is how to do that. And the difficulty was how to implement this kind of structure, the control of events, and to have a reliable control of the events. And this is, in fact, a huge topic in computer science since a very long time. And the problem is it's still not necessarily open, but it's still a problem. And so I am in contact with mainly with Gérard Berry and Manuel Serrano here from INRIA, and these guys, especially Gérard Berry, developed in the 80s a specific language which is called STRL, which is designed to manipulate complex events. It was not designed for music at all. It was designed for critical systems such as trains, airplanes, nuclear systems, and so on. And but the interest of the system that it works, it's very reliable, it works very well. And when I discussed with those guys, he told me, but maybe it's a good system for you. And so in 2015, first a new development of the STRL languages is done at INRIA by a young guy during his PhD, and with Manuel Serrano, research director at INRIA, which used the semantic of this language of STRL, but implement it over Node.js in JavaScript. So it's a way. It's interesting for me because it's a way to be able to manipulate something quite open in terms of development, and which is also open to the control by sensors and by the audience, which was in the first theme I wanted to address. So the name is hip hop. It had nothing to do with the hip hop music, but it did like the name, so let's keep the name. And so it was a good candidate to express a complex musical structure. So I start from that, and I develop a system, a complex system, which is in fact the implementation of this language for music, in my point of view, of course. And okay, so today I will not enter into the technical aspect of the language because it's not necessarily the goal today. The idea is that for the composer, because it's the tool designed for composer, which are composing music, not for people who are playing with prompts. It supposes that you are able to compose everything to a complex musical structure. And the idea is that the composer is not necessarily a computer scientist. And I wanted to offer an easy interface to the composer. So I decided to use something that maybe you heard about, which is Blockly from Google, and to implement the primitive of the language in Blockly. So you have some example of the syntax of the language, which make possible to manipulate the structure. You have the notion of waiting, for example, waiting for an event. Okay, it could be time. You can wait. In this case, you can wait for ticks. Okay, you're waiting for ticks is a way of measuring the time. You can wait for specific patterns or a pattern in a group. You can run tanks. Okay, you can do modules. You can, like in programming language, standard way of thinking of buildings. and you can build the tanks. You have specific syntax for that. So you have a lot of primitives designed for that, which allow you to describe the structure. I'll just present it to you graphically, but in a computer language, in a graphical computer language. And okay, it's not interesting here, but it's easy to make the parallel between this and the picture you had, the graphical picture you had just before. So this is the copy of the screen of the composer, what you have when you write music. So it's not very complex in terms of approach, even if behind that there are complex parameters to define before starting the system, of course. Concerning the architecture, I have just this short slide, so it's just more for the technical guys. I don't know if you are a lot today. So as I said, it's based on web technologies. So it's based on Node.js, which is the one standard platform for JavaScript and web application, mainly using Blockly for the interfaces. For the synchronization, I can use, I'm connected to a digital audio workstation, and the system by itself don't produce the music. It controls, it's a bit like a controller of digital audio workstation. So it means you have to discuss with the digital audio workstation. So it mainly do by MIDI, because MIDI is simple to implement on all the digital audio workstation of the market. What is interesting is that to have a good synchronization between the two systems, you can use MIDI, but I think I'm used to use Link from Ableton, which is a good protocol for synchronization, easy to implement, which works very well. So commonly today I'm using it mainly on Ableton Live with Studio, but I think there is no problem to use FL Studio or what you want. Of course, web interfaces, as I already told you, is mainly used for interactive music with the audience. Okay, so here you have a general view of the architecture. So I don't know if so maybe to keep in mind that you have the event generator in this case I mentioned the clock. Okay, everybody knows what is it. Sensors, but it could also be video games, for example, or video. Every system which is able to discuss, to generate events and use, in this case, OSC protocol, for example, or MIDI. OSC is maybe more common for the system. You can interact with the orchestration. So the system could be used for audience, but it's easy to implement with a game platform. I use Unreal Engine, for example, and with Unreal Engine, it's very easy to control. So, in one side, to control Unreal Engine by the music, and to control the music by Unreal Engine, for example. So the orchestration is, let's say, the score, the graphical program I just showed you before. So we use hip hop and Blockly. Here you have the list of the pattern you can use, because you have to define the list to describe them, how long they are, if they can be mixed or not with the other, if they have a priority. In fact, you have some parameters to define for the pattern. We are not using the definition of the digital workstation. We use another one which is more complex, of course. So there is a queue management. So the queue management is linked to this very simple fact that at the beginning it was also thought for a musician, and as a musician cannot play two patterns at the same time, so you have to put them in a queue to make it play when he has finished the first one, play the second one. So it's a very simple way, very easy to think about that. So you in the system you have different way of displaying. You can see the program as I showed you, but you can see in real time the behavior of the system. Okay. Maybe if we have time, I will just show you the interfaces. Unfortunately, we will not have the sound because Zoom cannot manage the sound of the digital workstation so far. But okay, and maybe I can show you just the interface, let's say. Okay, before that, maybe some word about in terms of conclusion before a short demo. Okay, I don't speak, of course, about neural network because it was not my starting point. Anyway, it doesn't mean that neural network will not be useful in the system. And I think there is a very interesting things for me in the system is that the system depends completely of the digital workstation in terms of the quality of the producing of the sound. I think it would be interesting to introduce maybe for the composer, not necessarily to generate music, it's kind of comfort for the composer if it has something more expressive than a simple digital audio workstation. And I think that in this case, neural network could be used as a way of enhancing the rendering of the expression of the piece of music. It's a complete topic concerning music and neural networks. There are the publication on that. Jean-Pierre mentioned it in his book, and it's an interesting topic. I think it could be possible to connect that with the system. But I would like to do something more complex than only connecting a neural network for expressing music performance. What I would like also is allow the composer to himself define the expressiveness. Because today, most of the system using expressive music performance rely on very huge, let's say, compilation of MIDI files generated by professional pianists, for example, or musicians, but which basically they are not the composer, they are other guys. And I would like to find a way to introduce something which is controlled by the composer and not relying completely from something outside of the composer process. Well, I don't know. I think it would not be so easy. Okay, the idea why I'm interested in this possibility is, in fact, it doesn't interfere with the creative process. It's just a way to bring more life in the system. It's not, let's say, dedicated to the creation of the music itself. The musician has to think about it before the system will not generate it. Okay, conclusion, just some of the main points I presented you, except interaction. Sorry, Jean-Pierre, I thought that it was a bit short to speak too much about interaction. So generative is based on, yes. Today the generative music based on neural network don't manipulate so well, but it will come. The organization of the musical creation, but it will come. I think I'm quite confident in that. There is still, I think, in any case, there are still for human creation, only for social reasons, if only for social reasons, because I already mentioned the performer and the composer and the audience as a human relationship you cannot replace by a computer. Even if your music could be replaced, but this relationship cannot be replaced. Okay, and I mentioned it. We can extend the process by using expressive music performance system. Okay, so for the people interested, though the system is available on GitHub, so you can download it and use it as you want. As far as I know, it works. I tested with some composer and they use it on several systems. I use it on a Mac, I use it on a PC. Unfortunately, you can use it on Unix only if you have Bitwig Studio, because I think there is not so many digital audio workstation working on Unix, unfortunately. You have some sound example, because I just present you very briefly some music at the beginning. You have a longer list on SoundCloud. And of course, you have my site if you want to just have more explanation about the system and so on and so on. So Jean-Pierre, you are still alive?
Yes, of course, I am. And
okay.
Here.
I share my. Do you see my screen? Do you see my screen here?
Yes, yeah, I can see.
Do you see? Yes,
And
you see
we still
skinny
have
because
time.
here you have
actually.
this. Yes. So I will not do. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make you a presentation of the sound because I cannot generate the sound. But I just show you the interface. So you here have a short jazz piece of music, which is a jazz piece of music, and okay, this is the let's say this is the score of a jazz piece of music, which is I think 2 minutes or 3 minutes long. So, and you see, it's not very difficult to understand, or even to see like that. So forget this part is a sub module. So I will collapse the block. Okay, you see, you can do that. It's very easy. So you have I explain you have this concept of signal. So here, for example, I will have 2 signals which are manipulated, controlling the transposition of the piece. Because in this piece, this is a jazz piece, but I don't want to have always the same chords and the same tonality. So I want to control the tonality during the evolution of the piece. And for that, I use specific signals. Okay, why not? So I define, okay, forget that for the moment. The tick is a concept in itself. I can define the tempo. Okay, I put a tempo. It's very classical. I can display message in a score. I will just, let's say, I will display a score. Score is a way to see the piece of music in a graphical way. So, for example, here. So I will open it.
Sorry, Bertrand. Maybe.
Yes.
Sorry, Bertrand. For this problem of technical problems, communication between. Sorry, the echo is going back. But anyway.
What?
Show us the result, the musical result. But maybe it's interesting to show us
Alors, the musical result.
It's possible because it's a way to show the real-time evolution of the music will be played.
Yeah, okay.
You understand?
You have too much delay, and so the display is not good. Okay. Alors, if I want to listen to music, let's see if you can listen to. I just want to go there. Tac. Let's go to SoundCloud. Alors, if I go to SoundCloud and we want to listen to some music. Alors, for example, I'm not. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Tell me if it works, because I'm not sure that SoundCloud works through Zoom. Let's check. Do you hear something or nothing?
Yeah, it's working. We can hear.
It's working. Okay, this is the piece of music I just presented you before. You see, you have some two solo, one after the other. It's just a way of manipulating the event and to say, okay, we open you open the bar for the trumpet now, and you close it for the saxophone. So it works, and you have regular transposition of the harmony. Okay, this is our. I will maybe present you something I don't see. This one maybe is more. Okay. Let's try music. Now, if you know that there is pattern behind that, you can find them because they are not so difficult to maybe this I will not show it because it's quite long, but this is an example of the same score in terms of programming generated at different timing. And which generate completely different music. It could be possible also. So the structure is the same, but you will hear that the music is absolutely completely different. So I would not play it completely because it's a bit long, but let's start with that. So it's very close to what we just listened to. Now this is what I call an instance. So the first way of playing that, the same structure, in a different way. You see the atmosphere is very different, but if you go inside the program, you will see it's very close. So let's see maybe this part, another way of interpreting the same structure. Well, the main difference come from the fact that there is not randomness in the structure, but there is randomness in the choice of the pattern. And you see quite just a strong influence in the music. Okay, the same structure and another interpretation of the same. Okay, so you see the idea. In this case, it is music. Okay, the atmosphere is close to the music of the beginning of the 20th century, quite modern music. But okay, it's a way of using the system. It's not dedicated specifically for this kind of music. By the way, maybe I can mention it because I do the game. I implemented the Wurferspiel, the dice game from the 18th century, which is attributed partly to Mozart, and it's very simple. It's 10 lines to implement Wurferspiel, because in fact the Wurferspiel is a sample structure based on random process, and you have to fix these only to fix the organization of the file of the FIFO of the cube in order to play the pattern, and it's very simple. It works very well. So just to say that in some way we are a little bit like the little children of the dice game of the 18th century. Okay, Jean-Pierre, I don't know if
yes,
it was okay. You do that.
Thank you, Bertrand. Obrigado. Actually, the echo is coming back. Unfortunately, I guess through me.
I don't know. Maybe
I will cut my speaker. Okay, so actually, it's interesting, Bertrand, because yes, I cut my speaker. So for the speakers, you mentioned the Wurferspiel, the composition by Mozart of one of his contemporary, which is a probabilistic sequence of predefined components. Actually, I mentioned that in a previous seminar, and I was really thinking about that. At first, I didn't make the connection with your work, but actually there is. But because there in this dice music where you play the dice dados, and you define the dice will say which is the first component of the music exactly. That will be selected within the 11th possibilities, and then for the second component, which will be selected, and etc. And yes, but you have but there everything is fixed. In your system, it's much more rich because, of course, you can do any not just a strict sequence, a predefined sequence, but any kind of you can put interaction, live interaction from the public, from actually the director, yourself or another guy, and it's so somehow you are in between this kind of dice music and complement totally algorithmic position where you have a model and then for instance, like Xenakis, where you have an abstract model and then some completely stochastic instance. So you, in your case, you keep a structure, you keep a blueprint, you keep a composition, the elements. So it's, I think it's very interesting, and
the difference with Xenakis,
and I think that the audience who's listening and hearing this presentation, this seminar, could see how you showed that the way that blueprint in a way of composition could be interpreted in very different ways through the control you have on the scheduling, on the selection, and etc. Maybe I don't know if you have because we still have time. I don't know if you have ready or easy, because you did some experiments with children, also with some maybe if you have but maybe it's not easy for
yes,
you
I
to
see what
show,
you mean.
because you showed me some examples of performance with
You're right.
children. I think it would be interesting to see how they could interact with some cellular phone, and they can participate in the selection of what instruments will play which part, if they could repeat, because there's a composition aspect, purely compositional, musical composition, but also there's all this kind of public aspect. And you know, Bertrand, you said something in the starting, which I wrote down. The question of whether AI will be able to produce good music does not exist if it has no audience. I put it myself down because I think it's very important statement, and I will keep it for the future, because music without public
yeah, this is the problem. You can do what you. This is, I think this is the problem of
how the public will listen, interpret it is indeed fundamental. Otherwise, it just is abstract. So it's and also you mentioned that as a composer, you want to keep the pleasure of. It's not just a question of quality. You want to keep the pleasure of composing, of controlling what your intention, and this is fundamental. And you don't want to leave the machine completely
yes.
autonomous to do things. So it's today is the first seminar actually with a real musician, not just computer scientists or philosophers, but also a real musician and composer, talking about this issue of composing and playing music in this high technology era. Great. So you can show the demonstration of the children. I'll let you.
What I don't do. Yes, I don't know if I have the complete presentation of the. Let's see. Somewhere now what I have here on the YouTube is the presentation of the project.
I'll let you show.
So the idea was to build a piece of music. Yeah.
Bertrand, I stopped for a while.
Yes. Okay. So what I can present you is not the final presentation, because I think I have it on the computer, but I'm not sure to be able to find it very quickly, but I can try. What I can do is to show you the video of the project. It means when we were preparing the project with the kids. The basic idea was with young children. They were, I think, around 12 to 30 years, from a school in Nice, and to prepare with them a show where they build the music by themselves. In being they have specific interface to design the music using something which is a little bit like I don't know if you know the push. Comment ça s'appelle déjà? You will see something, you press the button and it plays music. So I will just launch that and have a look. So the kids are preparing the music here. So it's a bit strange, and don't be afraid.
Ça, c'est l'usine. Ça ressemble à l'usine quand même, non?
Yes. Voilà. Donc, the kids are interacting with the system in real time. Pas mal ça pour l'usine, non? Ça c'est vous qui l'avez fait, hein? Vous vous rappelez?
Ça, on dirait, le gars, il est dans la jungle, il est perdu.
Asma, Maïssa. Sarah. C'est deux Sarah.
C'est quoi ça?
Ah ouais, mais ça va faire un gros caca. Hein. Là, je te garantis que ça va faire un gros caca. Ça.
Sérieux?
Fais la conscience. Ouais, la conscience, c'est une genre d'ambiance plutôt. Ouais. So at the end of the game, the children have designed patterns. They are designing the patterns. They are playing for designing the patterns, and we put it in Ableton, and we make after with the kids. We define the orchestration, and they play the music. They control the music during performance in the conservatoire de Nice. But unfortunately, I have the video, but I don't know exactly where. Maybe in vidéo, pas sûr.
C'est pas mal ça, qu'est-ce que t'en penses?
Okay, it was recorded by some people from the CM, so. Okay, it's just to show you that it can work in a real environment and with real people. It's not only
it's great,
project, a pure technical project.
Exactly. No, Bertrand, it's great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I know it's always could be stressful. So somebody to ask to put some video which was not prepared. But I think it's useful because it shows really how your system could be used not only by experts like musicians, composers, from the academy, from all the institutions, but also with future musicians, children, etc. They are already using and playing.
Yes, this is the show.
At the same time,
the only difficulty is that the kids cannot use the system by themselves. You have to have someone behind to
actually based on their preference and their interaction. And this is really important part of music. And I also realized that the first example that you showed, which was a jazz Grand Loup example, of course, this probably is not by accident. Because of course, in jazz music, there's a combination of this kind of blueprint of the jazz lead sheets, the composition, the score, the harmony, the melody, and also the way the band, a good band, will reinterpret it and put some improvisation and maybe repeat some parts, in real time, which is actually decided by interaction between the musicians. They look at themselves, or one is the leader and the other ones will follow. So it's really the way you in a way you are captured. So it's and as you said in the starting, using AI and advanced informatics is not just doing deep learning and just autonomous generation of music, but the focus
exactly. I think so.
on this interaction and also the intentional composer, which thank you, obrigado. I think it's very interesting, and I'm sure for the audience to see exactly different during the seminar, this cycle of seminars. We'll have, I said in the start, but we'll continue to have various colleagues, friends who will show various systems and various approaches to music and computer, etc., to show various way of using this new technology to make music more live and more. So these are my comments. Maybe you can meta comment on it, and maybe I will also see if there are some questions or comments so far. There's a question.
I am connected also on YouTube.
So the question, como a IA e a música generativa podem ajudar na formação dos futuros músicos? So in English, how AI music and generative AI could help the training of future musicians, composers. Of course, great question by Alexandre, and I leave it to Bertrand to try to answer.
If in very brief, my first reaction will be it depends on what you want to be trained in music. If you want to learn solfeggio, I think solfeggio in Portuguese could be something like this. In this case, you don't need the eye. You have a lot of very good software. We will train your ear and help you to learn the reading of notes and playing and so on. If you want to learn the piano, you have to learn the piano, you have to play. Artificial intelligence is absolutely useless in this case. Maybe I don't know, maybe it could be helpful to check some things. For example, if you want to be sure that you are singing at the right tone and so on, maybe a system can tell you reliably that you are okay, you play the music you are supposed to play, this kind of stuff. But I think it depends on the music you want to produce. If you want to produce an orchestral music for big formations, big orchestra from the, I don't know, in this case, I think it's not very useful because you have to learn how to write, you have to learn the basic elements of the music, the structure and so on. And for this, artificial intelligence is useless. But if you are doing techno, for example, techno or electro music, maybe it's very useful because you can produce very, very long tracks for several years, for hours, let's say, and with not too many effort. In this case, you have to learn the way of prompting, for example. In this case, you need an artificial intelligence. But I think I don't see a general answer to your question. I think it depends on what. If you want to play bossa, you have to learn the guitar. And I think artificial intelligence will not teach you how to play Jobim or this kind of music. There is no way. So I don't think it will bring a huge, I don't know, a huge development of the process of teaching music. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not a teacher, so maybe teachers have very good idea of what will improve the process of learning. Maybe.
Maybe I can. Oops. Cut my speaker. I think that too. Well, only speaking of generative AI, introducing the first seminars, learning from a corpus of music, and the machine, the computer will learn the style and then could create music in that style. In a way, it's exploring and this way of learning and creating it's always pedagogical because you can by changing the curation, the music that you train your the model, the computer on, you can see the difference in the way what it will learn and what it will produce. In a way, it's a way to explore various styles, and so I think it could be, it could be formative. But again, as Bertrand said, the AI is not just machine learning applied to learn those styles. And it could be used also to make analysis, automatic analysis of existing music. Could, as in the case of Bertrand, for instance, his experiments with the children that he showed at the end. I think for the children, it's wonderful way for them to get into music and to start to see the effect, which is a very scientific and the way we learn things is that we start to interact to get stimuli and to do some action to input and to see the results of our action and the way it contributes to the overall activity. So the fact that children could interact, not just being passive, listening to music, which is composed and already organized, but could interact with this interpretation of the music. I'm sure it's a fantastic way to get them not only on learning an instrument, which is fundamental, Bertrand talked about that, but also in a way to start to see the interest and the power of abstract composition and at the same time of the interpretation. So anyway, there are many various dimensions on the question.
Yeah, I think so.
Alexandre. And I think we still learning the new. We have technology. Sometimes the technologies are ahead. The technology comes before the way before we start to know how to use them. Sometimes it's the opposite. From the problems, from the needs, the technology are developed. Sometimes the opposite.
No, you're right. When you say that it's a way, this kind of system, in a certain sense, is a way to be to make the children sensitive to the organization of the music, not training really, but to feel, to understand that music has a structure.
Exactly.
You're right.
And it's as opposed to the more standard way of the more traditional way of training children and music, teaching music. At first, you need to learn how to read music, scores, etc. Which in a way is nonsense because learn as children, we learn to speak before knowing how to read. Actually, we need to be at first motivated. Of course, being literate and being able to read and to write text is fundamental for us to share information. It's a strong limitation for people who don't know how to read. But we need to start with speaking and listening to people's talking before. So in a way, this first focus on reading musical score, I think it was very wrong. Actually, discourage a lot of children and from more classical music and put them into the arms of pop music. and many of them later on they came back and they discovered the greatness of classical music. But I think in the way music is taught is much more about motivation, at least motivation the children to play some instrument, to see to how also various instruments together they can build up some. So in your system, I think it's really about that. At first you need to motivate the audience and to see the impact of their decision and then of course at some point you need to get into the process of composition, etc. But I think this example of use for children, and not only for children, but it's very, very instructive. I will get my.
Oh, on t'entend plus, Jean-Pierre. Là.
I stopped the problem. In order to stop the echo, I have to, cut the microphone or cut the speaker. So anyway, Alexandre wrote Trattase de un incentive ou uma inibição criativa. Acho que so in English, is it about some incentive or some creative inhibition? So what? So Bertrand, I'll let you answer.
If I understand the question, you are more, I think, more speaking of the interactive aspect of the music. Now, you're right. The basic idea was of course how to organize a performance where the people are involved in the creation process and not only passive. It's a topic which has quite a long history. In fact, it started, I think, after in the 70s, last century. And you're right. It was one of the main focus of something which allows the interaction with the audience is to make the people feel that they are actors in the music and not only listeners. The problem is that it's difficult to say today if the standard audience, let's say, want to be part of the creation process. We made an experience. I made a performance at the beginning of the project with a show quite a long one, almost 1 hour. And in this show, there were 2 parts where we need a crowd. We need people making noise, making things. And for this short period, and I think it was 3 minutes and 4 minutes, something like this, we let the audience, the people in the audience, make the be part of the show, and it works well. we were not sure that it will work, and the people really play the game. They have the possibility to interact using their smartphones, though they are connected through Wi-Fi to a specific server, and they can choose to make noises, to make something, and they enjoy that. I don't know if it's after that we try to analyze why it worked, because and we don't know if the let's say the surprise of being able to interact with the system, and so something as, oh, it's new, let's go, let's play the game. I don't know if we did it several times, if the people will have the same attitude. It's difficult to say. The problem is that this kind of performance are quite difficult to organize. So we did it during a festival in Nice of contemporary music, and so it was okay. The public was expecting interesting things, new things. But okay, you have to prepare a specific room, to install a network, to have servers, to implement the technology to them. So it's quite a long it was a huge work to prepare. So I did it, but not on small scale. At this level, it was more than 100 people connected to the system during the show. And okay, the only thing I can tell you, I don't know if it was a question, but the people who wanted to play the game and to be associated to the reactive process, but it was short. It was among a specific scenario with a story, and you have to play some roles in the story. So it was clear in terms of scenario, in terms of narration of the show. So it's difficult to manage. It's not only to give the people the possibility, you have to control it and to prepare it, and it's okay. It's an interesting topic. Not very easy to implement, but interesting.
Thank you, Bertrand. I have actually two comments about that, because maybe the first is that in the previous seminar I talked briefly about the IKEA effect. That is the fact that when the public participate in the creation, the appropriation of the creation is much bigger. The idea is that if you buy a table at IKEA in parts and you build it, you mount it, you will like it better. That psychologists have studied that effect, that if you buy a table which is already or completely mounted, ready, and François Pachet, for instance, showed me some examples of a company which created a recipe for making a cake, and then it was just a little piece. We had powder with everything, all the ingredients. Just had to add water, and then the product was not much of a success. And then what they decided to do is to remove the eggs, and then they sold a new version of the same product, where there's the same powder but without the eggs, and the people had to add the eggs, and then it became a success, because in a way the participation of the consumer was greater. Was not just adding water, but adding water and eggs. And so far, I was just thinking, in a way, for the audience, the way that they participate in the instantiation, in the scheduling and the decision of of the probably should make them more aware, more happy, more part of, as they are part of the process and not just passive
yes, you're right.
So I'll let you react to this my first comment.
No, you're right. Not the difficulty, but the specificity of this kind of let's say new performance is that it's not very common. The people are not necessarily ready for that. So I think it's a specific way of doing performance, and okay, I think it should work in some case for some people. The difficulty is to be able to tell, okay, it's a business. I don't know. Not sure that this is really a business today. It's okay. It's experimental. It's interesting, but I'm not sure this is still what the people are expecting from a performance. I think today when I discuss with friends, they are still in the process of to have a relationship or with a specific musician and with a composer or performer, and they are expecting something from these guys. And okay, participating is not necessarily what they are looking for. But there is certainly different other way of using. I think one way I think is maybe interesting is to use it in not necessarily in a performance or in a show, but let's say in a museum or an open space or something in installation, as we used to say, where the people could interact with something, play with something, and but it's not the commercial performance that we're used to.
Thank you. And actually, I should mention that we talked, and we for reasons of time and resources, but you didn't show today that your work could be used also for adapting in real time, in interactive way, the music to a game, for the music for a video game. And so
yes, I just mentioned it, but yes, you're right.
That's one kind of application where it could be very useful. But now, my second comment is actually the exact opposite of the first one, because now I suppose that, okay, you are a composer and you compose your music. I'm not supposing you are a composer, actually, indeed. And what are the, I try to imagine what are the interests, the pros actually of this way of composing for you, because is it maybe because usually a composer, you compose for orchestra, okay, a small or philharmonic orchestra, etc., and in a way the musicians, the human musician, they will interpret, and they will be also the director. You know, there's some way of interpretation, and you mentioned that actually, which is of course very important. So, but if you have no human musicians like a violinist, a guitarist, horns, etc., to play the music, if it's only through rendering or etc., you have no more interpretation. Actually, you mentioned that you are interested exactly maybe also to use AI techniques to add some kind of more human interpretation to the music played. So I just try to imagine, is it the way, in a way, your way of composing in that kind of blueprint, and with the possibility to instantiate and to adjust actually the way the different the architecture of the components will be performed, is a way to regain some control, some human control of interpretation, not through the human musicians will interpret, but through this kind of control. It's just my today question to you.
What you mentioned remind me something we did in Nice. Instead of controlling digital audio station, we control a network of speakers, because we develop at the university, a guy developed a small speaker with a Raspberry inside, which can be controlled, let's say a bit like a track of a digital audio station. And we can put up to 64 or 128 of these modules in a space. And in this case, the system behaves like an orchestra, like a real orchestra. It means you have the sound which is generating in places in the room. And in fact, it's new. It's quite new. The way of thinking a piece of music for this kind of system is something new. It's a new process, and the way of thinking the structure and introducing random process inside that. Okay, which we tested, we did it sometimes, and it works very well. It's very surprising because the immersion is very good, and it's a new. I think the limit and the possibility of system we don't master it for the moment. I think we need time and people to play with it in order to have new ideas, because I think it's quite simple in the basement, but the combination is huge. So
do you have some other composer which experience of except you started to try to use your system?
yes,
Actually,
yes.
I want to try to use your system because I think it's
yes, I have. I am.
You have already
not a lot of people because. Yes, I have a young colleague in Aix-en-Provence who is interesting because he wants to have a system able to interact with virtual reality, and use the system in terms of control for virtual reality application. So it's quite well adapted because the virtual reality basically is generating events. So you have an interface and you have a space and you move in the space. It's a little bit like a video game, in fact. In this case, it's quite easy for him, it's easier to use this kind of system than to program every events and so on and so on and so on. So this is an example. Another example is a guy, he didn't use it for the moment because but he already did things close to that, using also a system with a network of speakers spread in a space. And actually, at the moment, he has some difficulty to control the pieces because he has to fix it, and for that he cannot do it by himself. So he has to the guy from IRCAM to write the program in order to control to make the scheduling of the system. And it's interesting because he can with Skinny he can do it by himself without asking to a computer scientist in order to program the system. So this is the kind of people who are testing or using the system at the moment. A classical musician which is used to write music don't see naturally the interest of using such a system. It's quite experimental in some way.
Well, thank you for the, and maybe a more personal comment.
Thanks to you.
Is that last week I participated in the organization of a seminar for honoring a colleague who was my co-director of thesis. We're both at IRCAM in a project named Fórum. I don't know if you know about this. And it was in the 80s. I was starting.
Yeah. Object programming.
And it was about exactly organizing musical processes in time, in hierarchies and non-hierarchies. So it's actually exactly what you're doing. So, but exactly in the meaning, in the sense that it was really it was completely non-interactive, because at that time there was no Macintosh, it was all batch processing. There was only there was no graphic interface as well. But so in a way, I'm just making now the connection with this idea of exactly organizing musical processes, and which was very very simple and very but with, of course, with technology and the full power of and actually we built some with Pierre Cointe and Xavier Audet and Bernard Sapet with a programming language based on Lisp and objects and actors for this. But it was and you are using a more general SRL real-time synchronous programming language. So it's I'm just making the connection right now, and in a way we were playing with very primitive tools and no feedback, no experience yet, and so it just I'm just making drawing the lines between the points, the dots, putting bit, but well. So I think so. It's already 11 in France. So it's late here. It's already 6 p.m. in Rio de Janeiro. So probably I think it's time to stop. And I would like really to thank again Bertrand that fantastic seminar, and the system is very interesting, and to show again the diversity of the way technology can help to think about music, to make music, to compose music, to create music, to produce and to make music in real time. And there will be more colleagues will talk about, first there will be Gérard Sayag, will talk about, who's from IRCAM, about real-time also interaction with other kind of technology. François Pachet will also, so there will be various talks, seminars, not just computer science aspects, but also really from the music, and everybody in the seminar is concerned with arts and music. Next week, I decided that I will give one more seminar, not just to speak more, but because 2 hours is short. So actually, I thought that I could give a little more insights about ChatGPT and how to make music with it, this issue of control, and how to make various types of, and also I want to talk a little bit about Markov chains, because it's also a very, very important model which could be used for machine learning as well. So just to review what we saw already and give more details, and then probably there will be some pause, because not all the slots for the weeks will be, and then the next. Sorry, I'm just checking the next right now. The next yes, and then on the 10th of October, there will be, and now it's already set. Gilbert Ramalho, who's a colleague and a musician also, and will talk about music and AI, also the explicability and ethics, which is also an important issue. So please stay tuned, as we say. In the cycle of seminar, there will be seminars about the rights. Copyrights, and as Bertrand mentioned, there's still the movement in Hollywood and ongoing, and there will be seminars about and also about art. I mean, interactive art, and so various things. So please continue to follow our seminar, and thanks a lot for attending. Bertrand, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure, and we need to interact more.
Thanks to you.
And
yeah, of course. That's your to farm.
So I leave it to you. If you have some more comments, please feel free.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for this invitation and for the previous presentation, which were very interesting.
Thank you, Bertrand. Obrigado todo mundo. Obrigado a André, who's the technique behind the transmission, the Zoom, YouTube, and everything. All the organizer of the college, especially Anna, Celia, and also Barbara, and everybody there. And so see you next week then, right? And thanks a lot. So we can bye.
Bye.
À bientôt. À te breve.
Bye. À bientôt.
So André, you can stop the transmission now.